All right, nothing like being a half an hour late, but what
Oh,
can you do?
yeah.
Oh, what a long couple weeks, Sagar. We ended up getting the part where you're over, not you, but we were over the 2 week period, so we were greater than 2 weeks.
And hence
So
the symbol.
hence the symbol exactly. There's no need to rush greatness,
Yeah,
Sagar.
absolutely. It's an art.
Exactly. It is an art. It's what all the kids call art, I guess. Oh, so much
Oh,
stuff has happened. I mean, we had a lengthy debate in the last show. I don't know what's going on with Kim Davis. I have not looked her up at all.
nope.
She's she is not in the news, which
Could
is good.
be, could be, funded out of sight scenario because she wants to be on the TV. She wants to speak. So it might as well be, hey, 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 just stay out of there. We have primary going on. We don't want her to be the question on the debate.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah.
She's I'm not sure. She let's see here. Let me see what she's doing.
It's good. I mean, out of sight, out of mind. People will forget. Pope will forget and forgive. So all good.
All good. Let's see. And then of course the other thing that happened was, and this started up a different debate last week, but the there's the fact that Donald Trump is running for president.
Oh yeah.
So, what do you think his shots are, or like really, what do you think his shots are?
See, the government's gonna flip this time, from Democrat to Republican. So there's like 80% chance that whoever is the nominee is gonna win. Because 80 is done and dusted. So we gotta switch. We gotta switch. People have that on the mind. So I think he has greater than 70% chance. Because if you see on the other side, like, who's running against him, Sanders, old guy, not gonna make it. Not clearly not gonna make it. And we are not ready for Hillary yet. We could be ready for any other girl or woman running for it, but not for Hillary. She, at least, what I feel. She is polished. No wonder. She spent half of her life out there on the Capitol Hill. So I understand. She's polished. She has answers to everything. But can she? Would she? Probably not. I mean, that's my take on it. So whoever is here on the Republican side clearly has an upper hand. They
Well,
don't have to, but they're gonna spend a lot of money. But you know,
I don't think it's a dead win at this point, because, and the reason being is because of Donald Trump, right? I think that Donald Trump has enough of a negative, history about him, right?
agreed.
And then Hillary has a large negative history too. So I don't think that I think the Democrats, if they want to be in office, I don't think that they should put Hillary to be the one, because I think that out of the out of the two, Hillary versus Donald, that Donald would win. But I don't think anyone wants Donald to be president.
See, I mean, if you compare the failures, I think Hillary's failures are like a lot more serious. And the reason I'm saying a lot more serious in the context of politics, because she was in the politics. Any mistake she's done over her career, they were about politics. Whereas Trump has an upper hand just because, he made a ton of mistakes, but they were not impacting other people's lives. It was not impacting government policies. So there is no direct correlation. Like, oh, I declared the bankruptcy doesn't mean, I laid off or, I furloughed ton of government employees. Whereas what Hillary did, people died. People actually died because of her mistake.
Well, also she also made decisions, and there's been some quotes here and there where she made political decisions, that were of the same vein, where people could have died or people did die because of political decisions that she made. Because you know, I have a very vague notion that she's a certain type of politician, a certain type of person that I would definitely not want to be in office, because I think that she's been in the political machine so long. And I think, to your point, the Trump the Trump has done things, and people say that his foreign policy would be a problem, right? And I think it would be. But that being said, I do think me being a conservative type person, and a person that wants to preserve people's rights, and also to make sure that things happen that are supposed to happen, because that's the most logical reasoning that there is for a situation. Like, if something costs too much, you don't buy that one. Or if you're over budget, you stop spending immediately and you cut jobs, because you know what, you know you don't have enough money, right? So when it comes to like budgeting for the a department, he's not going to say, oh well, that's okay, keep that budget going. He's going to say, no, no, you got to trim jobs. I know they're government jobs, but you know what, that department doesn't have any more money, and there's no reason to keep it going. Or you know what I mean. So I'm not sure if his foreign policy will get in the way, but I do like him for that matter. And I don't think Hillary is just like status quo with things like budget. And plus, again, I think she's a little bit too much of a political machine. But that's the only reason I like Trump. That's the only reason I would ever like Trump, is because
Okay.
of the fact
So,
that if
so the candidates apart, what do you want new government to do? Forget about Trump or Hillary or Sanders or that Maryland guy. I like Maryland guy.
I can't believe you like I cannot
Oh
believe
man,
you like
come
O'Malley.
on.
You're killing me right now.
O'Malley has all the right answers. He's clear. His thoughts are clear. My soldier guy, he fell off the race, but at least O'Malley I mean, at least what I've seen of him, right? I mean, I don't know the history much, but what he has done 10 years ago, or how things were 10 years ago. But he had, at least, he stood out for me in terms of, he has some clarity of thoughts. He knows what he wants to do. He could be wrong. I'm not saying, he has that magic wand, but
Well,
at least he knows what he wants to do.
it's not a wrong or a right answer type thing though with him. It's that he's like the new Bill Clinton. His political history is terrible. His
Right.
some of his policies are awful, and like he's a political machine with a lot of baggage, and he's not been good. He works for himself. He doesn't work for the state. Never has, never will. I don't. His whole purpose was himself. And I, when it comes to getting a job and taking care of your family, yeah, I see that you should work for yourself, and I think that that's a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing that you should
Hmm.
get what you can when you can get it, but you shouldn't do it in in government or in politics. But that's what he does, and so I don't think he ever everything he's ever done, in my opinion, was for himself and not for the state of Maryland or the city of Baltimore.
Sure. But I mean, we keep saying Trump gonna fail on foreign policies. What does really a president have to do to come through with the foreign policy? What do you expect? Because they don't do anything. Military does, or the
But
advisors do. All they do is like say yeah or nay, and they can't go against their own regime because they have to support the troops. Military wants to fight, so they want more budget. They want to get in there.
I
What do you expect in terms of foreign policies? What should happen?
well, you've got a lot of stuff in the air right now. You've got
I know.
Syria. You've got
Yep.
which we should go over Syria as the fact that I don't think many people know what's going on in Syria, but it's Syria, it's the ISIL, ISIS, Al Qaeda, Afghanistan issues. It's China, it's Iran, it's North Korea. Japan is recreating its military, right? And not that they're aggressors to us, but they could raise aggressions with, China, because China and them are always arguing about a couple things. And if they're gonna build their military back up, then there could come a time when they say no more to China and they shoot at one of its gunboats or something, right? Because they're arguing about some of the seas around them.
Yeah.
So you've got stuff like that. You got Putin, good old Putin riding a bear,
Oh yeah.
right? Shirtless. Um, I got into a discussion with my brother about the fact that Putin's helping the Syrian president.
Assad. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, Assad. Right. So here's two dictators helping each other out, and my brother's like, well, it's. And I see his point, but he's like, Putin's like, I see the guy that's trying to get it done in his country, and I think it's good that Putin's helping. Okay, well, you want to talk about foreign policy? I mean, you could come at that thing from 7 different angles, and if you're wrong or if you hedge your bet incorrectly, we could start another Cold War.
Like we did with Iraq. That was a bad bet, Iraq.
It was a bad. Well, it went in with the wrong statement. The whole like weapons of mass destruction, right?
Right.
But the thing is that he was a dictator and he was doing terrible things. It's the same thing that people say about Assad, right?
Right.
I mean, any place that you live that someone has so much power in the country that their brothers and sons are, killing women left and right and having harems of slaves and killing people that they disagree with, and then what I mean, like having a society where the very top people can do whatever they want is what Saddam Hussein had, right? So to have taken him down, I think was a good thing, just like I think Assad should probably be as well. But I don't know the whole history, but any dictatorship to me is evil, right? Because you have an upper echelon of people that are dictating what you can and cannot do. Now it depends on how you could say that it depends on how hands-on they are, so to speak, right? how much they tell the people how many rights they take away, or how many how influential they are with the people. If they just let if they just stand on top and collect an extra bit of taxes and let the people do as they will, right? Free rights, capitalism, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah, then that would be democracy.
Well, but it wouldn't. If you still have a head of the thing, then you're good. Now, so then comes then you get into, okay, so you've got a dictatorship, right? So basically that's what's going on in Russia right now. That's what's going on in in Syria. And Putin is like, hey, that's my buddy down there. He's trying to run his dictatorship and he needs some help. And I don't care who's helping him. I don't care if
Hmm.
it's the US that's helping him defeat his peoples, right? What do you call it? I think they're called like the rebel fighters. It's interesting because they call them different things, but rebel fighters, and then there's ISIL, and then there's
Arab Springs.
well, the Arab
Is it?
Springers.
Yeah.
That's the original. That's the original group Sagar. But
Oh, okay.
and I believe that the U.S. helped them, but that whole group turned into something different. It turned into ISIL coming in there. So basically, you have a country that's now like just so jacked up with multiple people owning multiple areas. You've got refugees flying out of the country. You know, war is terrible, and we're witnessing it live, right? We're
Yep.
witnessing things like the people drowning in the boats, and we're witnessing, Hungary arming its borders because the refugees are coming through, and that's because of Syria and the fact that the country is being torn apart.
Agreed.
The problem is we didn't get Iraq right. We didn't put it back together after we went in. So we can all holler about how bad Assad is, but no one's really willing to do the cleanup at the end. And honestly, I think the world's kind of tired. But I mean, the world's just really just tired of mess after mess after mess. And it's great that we wanted to go in there and fix it, but we made a mess. It's still a mess. So yes, taking down dictators is probably a good thing. But if the world is kind of not behind you and it's kind of done and everyone's done with it,
So
then what do you do?
I agree, and so that's the tricky thing, right? Now, U.S., do we want to be the leader, or do we want to be, hey, you know, country just manage your own shit, That would be Trump guy, like, I don't care. Do whatever you want as long as you're not coming to U.S. I don't care. I feel that would be Trump's policy. Whereas
Probably
Hillary,
yes.
even with the proven track record of mess that we did or how much money we spent, clinging on to the fact that we want to be the world leader, we're going to pour in more money in there without knowing where to fix it or how to fix it.
Right, and that's a problem.
And that's what my question back to you was like, what do you expect? Like, you list a ton of countries. Now, we don't have a ton of trillions unless China borrows us some more, but.
That's right.
But now, do you expect us to go into all those countries and fix it? Or stay out and, let them manage their own thing and then we take off the label of world leader?
Well, first of all, I don't think that we've ever wanted to be a world leader. Out of all the countries that we've gone into, we've never stayed there and said we own this country. This is now part of the U.S. Right?
No. World leader, as in, I don't give a shit about UN. We're gonna do what we want to do, and that was our power back in 98, 99, or whenever we did the Gulf War, or even Senior Bush.
Right, in 92, right? Like
Yeah.
Desert Storm and stuff like that. Right. So, well, Desert Storm was different. So, okay, so here's the point. Here's the thing. So you bring up a good point because you have so the world wants us, like when a country such as, Syria or North Korea, well, North Korea is interesting because they can't see outside their country. They're so isolated, the people. Anyway, okay, so like when it comes to someone wanting some help, they usually holler at us, right? And they're like, "Listen, the stuff's going to crap. We need some help." I mean, you've got things like Rwanda, and people talk about a number of different areas of the world where, like, some terrible stuff is happening and they want us to help, and they get upset when they're like, well, America's not doing anything, right?
Yeah.
Because we're one of the most powerful countries in the world. Like I think we're still the most powerful country in the world, except for maybe China. So the world looks around and goes, who can we ask for help? And they say, oh, America. And then it becomes, well, who should give us some help? America. America should help us. Right?
Right.
So that's when we go, oh, yeah, we got all these pleas. And then finally we're like, well, let's go in there. Now, that's not what we've really done in the past. That's why this is interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because let's look at the past. In the past, you have, if you look at the history of war for the United States, most of the time, 95%, we're fighting someone that did something terrible, right?
Yep.
It's always that we prevent, another we prevent another little dictator. There's no way that we're going to let someone, and I agree with this. There's no way that you can become the next. What's that little dude's name? I can't remember.
Hitler?
Well, no, I remember his name. No, but Hitler. Hitler's the same as, the little French guy. Was he French? The little the people. What's the dude's name?
Oh,
boy. Okay, here's the point. You can't, as a dictator, and this would only happen with a dictator. Well, I guess it could happen with a republic, but you can't say, that country right there, that looks juicy and delicious. I want to make it part of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And march in there with your troops and take the country.
Oh, yeah.
You can't do that. And that's what Saddam Hussein did with Kuwait. So that's why we initially fought Saddam Hussein. I mean, what's terrible is there are pictures from 10 years prior to Desert Storm, which was our first war in the Gulf, where we're like, people like Cheney are like shaking hands with Saddam Hussein. They were all buddy and selling him weapons.
Yep.
Because he was fighting, I think it was Iran, who was being backed by Russia or something, some other craziness. I mean, this whole region is, just like a cluster. But what he did, when he went into Kuwait, that's like a big no-no. And then remember him, and he set all the oil wells on fire, and he was like, no, if you can't have it, if I can't have it, no one can have it. I mean, that was ignorant to the nth degree, and really we should have finished the job. Right. So now you have something like Syria. Syria hasn't taken over anything. Syria is just going through a civil war. Now, are innocent people dying? Yes, because that's what war is. So we're going in because we're saying, okay, a dictator is not just going to make war, but he's going to hurt the populace just to make a point so that he can get his rule. He has to have hand, basically.
Right.
So he's going to be really, really ignorant when it comes to getting hand back. And Putin's like, yep, let me help you. I'll give you some hand. Right. I'll bomb 4 schools, and we're going to say it's from Assad because Assad's saying, listen, everybody, you better calm down.
Yeah.
Right. So it's terrible. But the point is, he didn't take over anything. Really, Putin took back over, what's it called? Chechnya? Is it Chechnya? Yeah.
Chechnya.
Yeah, he's taking back over Chechnya, right?
Yeah,
because
he wants all of his Russia back.
He does, and what he wants, and he's going to take their little civil war, their coup, right? And he's going to go back in and be like, oh no, really, what you want is what you want us to come back. So that's what he's doing, right? He's doing the same thing kind of Assad's doing, but just on old history. So what do we do, Sagar? Do we what's your opinion? I mean, do you just let them go when it comes to something like this? And there's other things going on in the world where people are dying from famine and things like that, and because of a dictator. And also the dictators, the other problem with the dictator is that they get it's at the whim of one man. And that is the worst thing ever, right? Because one man, if he has an army or if he has nuclear weapons, he can wake up in the morning on the wrong side of the bed and say, "Oh, you know what?
Shoot that.
San Francisco is," and you've been there. It is a hotbed of open sexuality, and it goes against everything I believe, and it's the mecca for art and sin for the US. But I'm of course
I agree.
making a joke, right?
Yeah.
Because they're known for that. Okay, so someone like Iran, right, who
Mhm.
their Sharia law, right, states that if you act like you act in San Francisco, then you deserve to die. So they're like, you know what? The first place we're going to nuke just because we woke up upset this morning is let's go ahead and just destroy San Francisco.
Right.
So that's the real problem with a dictator is the fact that the people aren't free and a dictator can do whatever they want. And that does mean also harm other places and countries because in the end, especially when they get older in life, it doesn't matter anymore, right?
True. But dictatorship isn't necessarily a bad thing for countries like these. I'll tell you what. Like, look at the Indian history, right? 1947. What was British? I mean, they just declared democracy and then boop, off we go, right?
Mm-hmm.
What happened? Bunch of people who were. I get it, there are some leaders who were fighting for it and eventually got hand of the Congress and everything, and so over 60 years, India was ruled for that matter, and for lack of a better word, but I mean they were elected officials, but it was the same family, right? So you can take away the dictatorship and still give power to one guy who somehow learned something and learned the terms of leadership and figured it out, and then he rules for next 100 years. It's as good as dictatorship. And then comes the corruption because now I'm a democratic country. I can't, do whatever I want. I want to take consent of people. But then this is how I'll manage it. So I don't even make people aware of things going on. And that's how the corruption started in India. People wanted to stay in the power. Same people wanted to stay in the power. The best way to do it, get all the money you can, deprive people of their rights, money, even facilities, roads, infrastructure, and then stay in the power. So those people have been in the power for like decades together. Same thing could happen here too. So dictatorship, taking away dictatorship isn't the plan, isn't the right plan. You could set the transition, yes. But unless people are taught how to behave, like what would make them throw away their arms? Like, even if you go and set democracy, why would a family staying three houses down from someone house who's for democracy would make give up their arms? What is why wouldn't another rebel group start after forming the democracy? That's what happened in India too. I mean, Kashmir and the Pakistan is a whole different issue, but even within India, some central eastern areas, there are still some terrorists. They call themselves rebel. They want their own land and, blah, blah, blah. They never wanted to be part of, the United India. the same thing could happen. Then, 20 years later, we'll be fighting that. And then, given enough time and social media, they could throw in some valid pointers which would change opinion of whoever we select as the president. And we might go with that rebel group and then turn down the democracy that we established 20 years ago. So the basic question would be, what would make people give up their arms, or what? Because there's no simple definition for the peace, right? Just by allowing me to do whatever I want to do isn't democracy. That's not democracy. Would you agree to that? Democracy comes with set of rules. Now, who is setting those rules?
It's set in your constitution.
Correct. But who's setting it? Some bunch of guys have to document something, which they'll steal from four, five countries. Like, oh, this looks good in U.S. This looks good in London. Bring it over and copy it. So now those become your new rules. Now suddenly, I've been following something for the last 30 years, and now, hey, wait! I have to change my rule here. I need to park this way, not that way, right?
Right.
So that's a big change in anybody's life. So that's not so that there has to be a good transition. Like, the way I feel it, okay, Syria or Assad, you get to be the dictator for the next 10 years, but only in this city. Like, this is your city. Wipe out the next land, like next of the Syria or whatever it is, make it clean. No more people allowed. And then transition people over who can pass certain tests, who are mentally stable. No more that, oh, he was a psycho. He blew up three people there, right? Only mentally stable people would be allowed to get into the civilization. Like, if it were to happen here, all right, everybody stand to the west of Oklahoma, or draw some line, and you can actually go to New York only if you pass this test. So there has to be a massive cleanup. But given the situation, I understand it's not easy. I understand dictatorship is not easy, or should be continued. But we have to give them a timeline.
Right, but who can back all that up? That's the other question is that we did this in Iraq.
Yep.
Right. And it's still not working. Right. It's still not really a fully, because you have things like the fighting factions, you have the different and part of my thing is that you have the religious problem, right? There's multiple religions and multiple factions of religion, and they hate each other and they want to kill each other and all that good stuff. And so then you get some of them in power in the government, and they're like, well, wait a minute now, you're not, I'm religion ABC and he's religion ABCD. And so now we have a problem because I'm not going to be ruled by someone who's an ABCD, even though they're basically the same religion, just with a few little picadillos. So there's that problem as well. And then you have them taking over, and then they stay in power. And then as much as you have a constitution and even a democracy set up where there's voting, you start getting the same problems that you have with a dictatorship, where one party, same thing that you're having with India, is that one party kind of stays in power the whole time, and you don't really have a democracy. And so it would be up to another country, because the population doesn't get it, right? Because it wasn't born, and the United States isn't, it's got its own problems, and but I think that one of the differences, and this is just a cultural thing, is that in America, you're born knowing that, you know, America freed itself. Its people freed itself. The British didn't just walk away and say you should make a democracy, right? We freed ourselves. We had to fight a monarchy, right? And
Mhm.
we had to make a constitution, and we had to fight for everything that we have. And when in America, they tell you you can be anything you want to be. You just got to do everything that you can do to get there. And it's the same way that we see our country's history. We did everything that we could to get here. We worked for this. This is ours, right? And the only way to keep it is to continue working, continue fighting, and continue being an individual. I think individuality is still really important in the US, even when it comes to things like, whether you're in a church or, a community. I think it's still important about individuality and, inalienable rights. Um,
Yep.
I think that
And
that's
th
what makes it different.
that's very good point you brought up. Like, we freed ourselves. Now, a just imagine the situation, 1600, 1700, like England was the only country really. The others were just, piece of land and some people around it.
Right.
And when US started it, it was more like a rebel group because England owned it. Then we started fighting about it. We became the rebels. And then the only lucky thing back then that they didn't have nukes and they didn't have another greater power out there other than England, right?
Right.
So imagine, for example, country X, and I don't want to name any country, but there was England who was doing the right thing. He was going there, establishing communities and whatnot and contributing to the growth of the people. But almost as a dictator, it was ruled by their military. So it's as good as being, a dictator. But
Sure.
imagine there was another country X sitting out there, a lot more powerful, friendly with England, and, where people could go to. So if they were friendly with England, they would like, hey, go bomb this group of rebel out in Pittsburgh or Philadelphia, right? Because they were still
Right.
rebels. So it could have
Sure.
destroyed the U.S. and established the whole English power all over the place. Or there could have been rebels like who could have gone to that country X and hey, look what England is doing to us. Go bomb shit out of them, right?
Right.
That could have destroyed either. I mean, it doesn't matter to England anyway because they're so down their GDP or whatever. But so it's important for us to take a side, just because, as you said, you made the valid point. We freed ourselves. Not everybody has that willpower or opportunity or technical or technological advancements on their side, or even the brain for that matter. Just the way they were brought up to free themselves. Now, rebels are trying to free themselves from Assad. There's another group trying to free themselves from Assad and this rebel group. And there's one more who's trying to. So, what's the solution? Form 10 countries of Syria? I don't
Yeah.
think, right?
Yeah. That's not going to work.
So, if everybody's trying to free themselves from someone, it could come to a situation hey, I want to free myself from my neighbor. It's like,
Well, so what do you do with Iraq? So we've talked about how you know you've got a dictator,
yep.
and someone says no to dictatorship,
Hmm.
and what I'm saying is that the population needs to understand and know and want They're freedoms. Now, freedom actually comes with a little bit more stuff,
Yep.
or I would say a little bit more work, right? And that is nothing will be handed to you. Most dictatorships, they hand a lot to their population
Right.
to keep them happy, right? Oh
Yep.
well, you get this, or the trains will run on time, or whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you don't have to buy this. You have free healthcare, you have free this, you have free that.
Yep.
But when you first start out with a the democracy, everything has to be built as a company, or as a community based project that gets paid for with taxes, right? And it's led by people that are voted in and or hired to do that specific job, and then you have to prevent corruption. So I mean it's like it's like a lot of like our work, right? You
Mm-hmm.
can go in there and you can build any application you want,
Right.
and then you walk away. And you could have built just you could have built some just straight up junk, right? Because
Oh boy.
you were
Yeah.
given an opportunity to make something great, and it worked when you walked away, right?
Of course it did. That was in my contract.
Right, exactly. And you might have written some documentation, but you're not leaving and even if you did, some shadow training and all that good stuff, the
The knowledge
the
transfer.
the knowledge transfer, right? Even if you did the knowledge transfer, if the concept and the construct of the application are never transferred, if the
Mm-hmm.
understanding of the system and how it performs, and then how the application was built to work within those constructs to then meet the requirements that the business wanted, that person and or those people will never understand the system, right?
Right.
So, and it will break. And then they'll have to call somebody else. Well, when it comes to this type of situation, if you were to use the same analogy, here is Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't go in and say, I think possibly one of the problems is that we try to work within the culture, and I get that, and I want to respect the culture,
Mm-hmm.
but you also, for a democracy like ours to work, like the exact construct of the United States, the people have to be involved 100%, and they all have to understand it. So that way, at least somebody in the community needs to understand it. So that way, when someone goes to them and says, "Hey, we're doing this. What am I doing? I don't understand. It wasn't like this before." And that argument will come up over and over and over. Well, it wasn't like this before, and it's so much harder now. And it's like, well, yeah, that's because we're free. We can do whatever we want. We pay taxes to maintain the roads, maintain the military, maintain the police, maintain the fire, and that's it. And
Yep.
all of that will be there, and then we must build upon that,
Correct. And that comes
right?
with education and the society.
Right.
You made the valid point there. So now, and I was heading in the same direction, but slightly in a different way. Like, imagine a situation, what we do with our homeless. Imagine you are just acquiring a company with 10 million homeless guys. Start with the public housing, start with the soup kitchen, and then impart the social values on them, keeping their own values, but at the same time, this group of people clean up this mess. That that city there, you do their own, and you assign the leaders based on your assessment of people. That's how they form the municipalities, or whatever we have. So it's so easy to fix Syria. Take all the guns away, take everything away, take their money and land away. Start farming or start digging the rivers and whatnot, and then just impart the public housing and soup kitchen, free food, free live like housing, Plus, you get to keep your own rights and everything. Next 10 years, bring the fresh generation out, make give them education, make them doctors, engineers. It takes 6 years to become a doctor. It takes 4 years to become an engineer. Just instead of forcing a war on them, force education on them. Can't that be a force? Why do you have to have arms to, do something?
Yeah, but
You would still have the arms, but only you would have it, not them.
right, but Sagar, I'm with you. But once you take the entire population and then put them into the way you put it, like a soup kitchen and like houses, and then take away all their guns and so 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 is that what you said? Just to be clear, you're saying take the population and give them free food and housing, take away their guns though, and then educate them and educate them and educate them and educate them.
Yep.
And then on the second generation, i.e. 30 years from then, you will have an educated population that then you would say, this is what democracy really looks like, and go forth and build it.
Yep.
First of all, that is a really long game.
Right. And that's where no, you should run for mayor of Baltimore. Unless these politicians, they have short-term vision. Like, oh, I just have 4 years. I gotta make something for my name. I gotta do something that would help my people or my party or at least my presidency. So they're taking all short-term decisions based on, hey, I don't want to impart this war on the next coming president. I want to end this war by 2016 because that's when I get out of office. You can't have that short-term of a plan based on people's lives, right? Just because your term is ending in 2016 doesn't mean you need to get out of there by 2016.
Right.
8 years is not time for a war, or 4 years for that matter. Because they're not too sure how they're going to do. So they always plan things for by the time you come into the office. Hey, this is my third year. I must start something. I have to do something so people would notice. So they go and pick a war. And because of that war, they win the second term, and then that's how it becomes 8 years, and then they need to wind it up. So they don't give anything to the next president. He has to start over again.
So you're saying that you need the long game and you need the long plan.
Very long plan.
But now, so like from the perspective of America, right? And I'm like, America's great. We're awesome. Yep. Okay. But there is no way to have a long game. It's just like you said. I mean, we're in a 4/8 year cycle. We want to hear the pretty things. We want to see the pretty things happen, and we want to hear the fake numbers for what that looks like 20 years down the road. But no one gives a about the 20-year road, right? I mean, yeah. I think that you've made the biggest point of this conversation so far, right? I think that you just made that no one is thinking in the long term, right? And or what's also a term I know called the long now, right?
Yeah.
Now what's the long now, right? So the long now is like you said, thinking about something so far down the road about its impact. Like a lot of people, a lot of long now thinkers are environmentalists, right? Because they think they're trying to protect the environment, and they start with, turning off the water when they brush their teeth, right? Where, everybody else is like, really? Or recycling, or, if you're going to build your house, make sure that you build a house and then put some trees back, because, if you just leave all the trees down, eventually all the trees are down, and then now we don't have any more trees. Other long-term thinkers are people in the financial world who try and look at large trends and society trends, and they that's how they, you know, can forecast out 10 years in the future. But everybody else, and I would say even the financial people are starting to come back from that, is that in our instant society, no one is thinking about the long term thinking. No one, and that's the problem. So
True. That is so true, and you know, all valid points you made, and then you brought up that tree thing, and it reminds me of Rush Limbaugh. I don't know if you have time today to talk about Rush Limbaugh. Man, that guy's an
oh, come on,
idiot.
not Rush.
I mean, he, I, that, I don't know what it is, but I like to hear all the nonsense that he's saying. I don't agree to a single word, but I mean, he is such an idiot. Such an idiot. It's almost like it's entertaining to just hear all the crap that he says.
I know. Well, that's the thing is, and he admits this, is that that's his business, is entertainment. I believe he talks about informing people, and he does inform people, but he also talks. He's like
he,
that's
he,
what I do. I'm an entertainer. That's what I do.
Max, he misinforms people. He sure doesn't inform people. It's like climate thing is, it's wrong. People got it wrong. There's no such thing as climate war, like whatever the warming or global
Global
warming,
warming, right?
or what the recycling. The recycling is bad. I'm like, well, who are you? Where did you come from? Did you go to like at least a preschool? They teach Sanika about recycling and at least putting stuff in the trash can and where it belongs.
Right.
But this guy goes like, unless you use a lot of paper, they won't cut those trees and they won't plant new ones. And he throws numbers out, which kind of baffles most of the people, and that's where it gets more interesting. One of the points he made was in 1920, and where we stand today, we have 20 times more trees, or he threw some number, right?
Right.
20 times more trees than what we had in 1920. Now, I for one, don't have means to cross-check those numbers because it's so obscure and, it's a vague number. So, throwing those numbers and then attaching that to, how recycling is bad and, we're actually wasting more money. And it's been 20 years since we've been recycling. Have you seen anything? Nope. No, we didn't because, it's not a 20-year game. Recycling could be a 200-year game. Because no one has given us the right answer in terms of, when do you start seeing the advantages or effects of recycling? So playing games based on that is just nonsense. And he speaks nonsense. But I still like listening to what he says.
Well, right. Well, what he's doing is he's speaking to his audience, which is the short-term thinkers.
Yeah.
Right. They see a large amount of money going out the door, or they see a large project happening, and there's no return on investment. Now to their point though, and I think that when you give someone, or you have a project that large, or you have a society trying to make that decision, you have misappropriation of funds, you have bad decisions where in the end, if it's not kept on track, just like our discussion about democracy, if you were to do your 30-year plan, Sagar, where you put everybody in workhouses and this it sounds so terrible, you take away all their rights and you give them free food and medicine, and then you have them live for 30 years, and then you go, okay, here's your land, now you've been trained well, now you know to take care of it. Whether or not that 30-year plan is a good one or not, 30 years is a long time for people's memory, right? And unless there is a really strong governing body, or you know what I mean, like look at it like this: you and I work on short-term projects, right? Maybe a year, year and a half at the longest
Yep.
is when a project would be. Well, now think of some of the ones that you've had where the leadership around it was just junk, right? Where the I'm being honest, I haven't run into any of this at my work. I mean, I'm just pointing a fact out where, and I think that we both have heard horror stories from a couple of places, and things like that. But the point is to have, there's no I in team, but they're damn well be able to be a leader. There better be a leader and a really good focused, straight road to go down to get the job done. Because if not, if you've got 7 people, or in this case, if you've got an entire country of people, or you have an entire society trying to recycle, and they're
Yep.
doing it in a haphazard manner, right? Now,
Right.
recycling is different, right? Because I mean, like every county is going to do it differently and all that good stuff. And really, what needs to go now? Okay, how about this, Sagar? I think that recycling should be a capitalistic profitable gain. It should be a profitable. It should be somebody should be making money. And the reason I say that is because then you have innovation. Because if Joe Blow is taking in plastics and metals, and they figure out a better way to separate them, or they figure out a better way to turn them into little cubes that other companies could use to use them, and they reduce their costs so much that, because of the fact that they innovated, that's the point. That's kind of that would be my point. Is that with something like recycling, that should be a capitalistic venture on
Agreed.
all sides.
And people are doing it. I'm not saying, we're not seeing the effects of recycling. All the plastic toys we get, 50% of them are recycled.
True.
It's just the cost goes up because we want freaking Frozen and an Elsa sticker on it. The cost goes up exponentially.
Yeah, but now you're getting into something else. Now you're getting into Disney's windfall when it comes to Frozen.
Oh boy. Oh, is that something or what? Like, they created something out of nothing. Or was there even a book around that? The
Well, there was
Queen of Arundel?
no, there was an old story of sisters back from 200 years ago or something like that.
Oh, really? Wow.
That's what they do. They take an old, just like Tangled. Did you?
Oh, yeah.
Did you, I read something interesting the other day. Do you know how much it cost Disney to make Tangled?
No, I
300,
don't.
$300 million. They worked on it for 6 years. They had multiple rewrites
Wow.
and stuff. Yeah, it actually cost them. It was a
But
300 million. I think it was 300 million.
she made more than that because Rapunzel is Rapunzel and everything is Rapunzel now.
Oh well,
Not
yeah.
now, but
Well, no. Well. They learned their lesson. Do you know how much Frozen cost? 150 million.
no.
And you know that
Really?
they've made billions off of Frozen.
Oh yeah. They made
Oh yeah.
way too much money out of Frozen. Everything that you see has to have a Frozen sticker and money goes to.
To Disney,
It's
of
it's like a
course.
yeah. And that's what Rush Limbaugh was saying. Like every bundled cable that you have, $6 goes to ESPN, and ESPN is losing money. So buy more ESPN. I'm like, what are you talking about? The
Yeah, but
cable
see,
the cable services for every household, like the reason that cable companies bundle their package, then they could allocate that money back and make more profit, obviously, but at least 50% of the money goes back to individual channel. Now, ESPN gets $6 off of your package, whereas ABC or whatever, the TBS or the local channels who solely survive based on, News at 4 or whatever you see, they might get just 5 cents. I'm not arguing on numbers, but that's how they bundle things. But Disney has been wrapping things around almost everything. Everything is bundled into Disney. So they're making so much money out of everything that we buy. Even starting from plastic cups to the toys to the bed sheet or anything that you want to buy for kids, it has to come from Disney, or I'm paying Disney for just making that airline also.
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But that's up to us, and that's up to us whether or not we want to watch ESPN. Now, listen, if ESPN, and I've heard you make this point, if ESPN is losing money,
Yeah.
right? Whoop-de-doo. I mean, then they got to fix it. They have to come up. They have to shore themselves up. I mean, they're a business, and I actually I read an article, or just the title of an article, that was talking about how with ESPN doing some layoffs, then that's them going all corporate and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is that it's a business, and whether or not it turns corporate or not, I mean, you have, whether or not you slap a label on it like corporate, it still has to make money, even if it doesn't have a board or not.
Right.
Like, you can't run a failing business, and if to get your business back on track to grow, you need to lay people off, because you need to, tighten everything up and get more done with less, right?
Yep.
Then that's what you got to do.
And that's what Trump's going to do for us.
But the thing is that you can't. My point is that you can't get mad at a business for trying to stay afloat. And one of the things that do is lay people off. I mean, layoffs suck. I've been to a layoff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been to a couple of places closing, right? Because like like the Saturn car company, like Saturn was such a good idea and everything was great, and then it wasn't great, because why? Because there was way too much cruft. There was way too much stuff coming out of one company. I don't know. I mean, it was nuts. And GM had to be like, you know what? We got to take down all these lines because there's just too much stuff. And honestly, the country ended up saving GM by giving them their loans.
Yeah.
But yeah, whether or not they're making $6 a package or not, hey, if I get $6 per cable user, I'd take it. That'd be a lot of freaking money.
Yeah. You brought about Saturn and GM. I just saw the news. Maybe maybe on some news channel, or maybe online, that despite of what's happening with Volkswagen, Audi is still hiring.
Right.
I'm like, what the hell?
Isn't Audi their luxury brand? No,
it is, but that's when causing 10 times more, carbon emission than the average car.
Not Audis, no.
Or the Volkswagen, or no,
Volkswagen.
It's got to,
yeah. Audi's not going to sell a.
They're part of Volkswagen, but yeah, they're kind of independent.
Right. They're probably a subsidiary. No, it actually looks like
it is Audi that's causing more pollution.
No, it's Volkswagens.
No, it's Audi.
Wow, did you know they own Lamborghini and Ducati?
Oh yeah, they're gonna make
money. Volkswagen. I didn't know Volkswagen owned all those.
Oh yeah. Tata Motors own that. I think, is it Hummer? And another one, Jaguar. There's that Indian company that owns those two brands.
I thought Ford still owned Jaguar.
No, they sold
it. So it looks like I didn't know Volkswagen. So that is an interesting story. But maybe we'll save that one for next week. Because, yeah, they own Bentley, Bugatti, Ducati.
Nice.
Volkswagen, Audi.
So it was Audi. Who was making more pollution? Audi, right?
No,
it was Audi. Yeah.
No. It was the diesel Volkswagen, like Jettas and stuff.
No.
Yes.
Jetta suck. Who buys
it? Oh, and you know who owns that Porsche owns 30% of their they're a 30% shareholder.
Wow. But I think it was Audi who's polluting whole shit.
No, hold on a second. Now listen, we should save this for next week, but
All right.
but it said that I don't know. Anyway,
we'll save it for next week.
We'll save it for next week. Next week, the Volkswagen scandal and how that's all gonna.
Boy, yeah.
Listen, what we'll do is maybe we'll actually do a little bit of research instead of just rambling on about dictatorships and the long now. And
yeah, I'll find quotes from Rush Limbaugh about the whole global warming.
Good deal.
Those would be my punchline.
That'll work. All right, Sagar, we'll leave it at that.
Awesome, man. Another good session.
Another good session, sir.
Cool. All right. So, what time is it?